This is a tutorial on how to download, install, and get started making maps with BSP for Paintball 2. First of all, you'll need to go to digitalpaint.org, click on Downloads, scroll down to Map Editors, select the BSP with Paintball 2 support download, save that to whatever directory you would like to, open the zip file, and you can extract this to just about any directory. However, do not extract it to the Program Files directory, as Windows may prohibit writing files. I already had that extracted. That's why I was asking for the overwrite. So now go to CBSP or wherever you've installed it. Double click on bsp.exe. This is a expected security warning because this is not assigned executable. And now let's just test it out and make sure everything is installed correctly. So click on Open and select the sample map. Now if you click on Export and go to QBSP visrad, which will do our compile of the map, which is the QBSP stage, visibility, which isn't as important on this map since there's not much blocking visibility, but it's very important on larger maps where you may have a lot of complex geometry and you don't want it all rendering at once, and rad, or radiosity, that does the lighting. So if there's no errors, which you can scroll up and verify, then you should be good to go. Press a key and it should launch Digital Paint Paintball 2 with the sample map. Looks like everything is good here. So we can quit out of that and let's start making a map from scratch. Click on the Create New Map file and you'll notice we have basically nothing here. So we need to load some textures. Press L and select the P-ball directory to load the default paintball textures. Now let's create a wall. To do that, select a texture you would like, and then create a brush. To create a brush, simply click and drag in any viewport. We've created our first brush. Brushes are the building blocks for Paintball 2 maps. To manipulate the brush, you can simply click near one of the edges and drag. We want our wall to be a little taller, so let's click in the front view and drag it up. Now we want more walls, so let's duplicate this one. To duplicate, simply press the spacebar. Doesn't look like anything happened. However, there is a second brush if you click and move the one you have selected. Notice I now have two walls. And you can pan around in the 3D view using the middle mouse button, or look around rather. You can pan around in the 2D view using the middle mouse button and zoom in with the scroll wheel. Now let's create walls for the other side. I hit space to duplicate, click and drag, and I can click near this corner to drag on both the X and Y axis. Duplicate it again. Now we have our four walls. Let's create a floor. First hit escape to deselect everything. Select a different texture. And then click and drag and create another brush. We'll move this up so that it's aligned with the bottom. And let's duplicate that for our ceiling. In fact, instead of just having a normal ceiling, let's create a sky. Scroll down and select one of the sky textures. Now press Alt-B to apply it to the whole brush. You'll notice this does not look like a normal texture because sky is a special case and it will render the skybox that you have selected in the world spawn. So let's move to the world spawn. This is the master entity of the entire map. And if you click on this little question mark here, it will tell you all of the details that you can set. So we can add a key pair, and let's specify a game mode. We will do CTF. So we specify game mode here, and then we click on the right side and add 4. If we want to support multiple game modes, we simply add these values together. So if I want to support CTF and Deathmatch, I would simply add 4 and 1 to get 5. Next, let's add team colors. For this, we want to have red and blue. So we'll add a key pair and say team 1 is red. Add another key pair. Team 2 is blue. Next, we need a sky. We have examples for the lighting in Riverscape, so we'll use that for now. Sky, Riverscape 1. And these are the parameters for sun lighting. We've got sun, angle, which is the direction of the sun, 200, -30. Sunlight, that's the brightness of the sunlight, 250. Sun surface, that's the amount of light that comes from the sky in general. So that should be less light than the normal sun, but somewhat high for a daytime map. Next, we need to create a spawn. So first of all, press escape to make sure nothing's selected, and then we will go down to Info Player Deathmatch. That is a deathmatch spawn, at least from the traditional Quake. Our game has more than just deathmatch, but that is a general multiplayer spawn point. So with that selected, we'll click Make Entity, and that will create our spawn point. Now let's snap that to the center of a grid point using Alt-S. And we can also change the size of our grid with Control mouse wheel or selecting a grid size from this drop-down menu. We can move this around, so we'll put one spawn on each side. Now in this, we want to specify that this spawn is for the red team. So we'll put team number as 1. If you recall, we set team 1 to be red. By default, this will be facing to the right from the top-down view, so this is good. Now let's duplicate it using spacebar, put it on the other side, and set team number to 2. And we'll also add a key pair for angle and set that to 180. You'll notice that added an arrow indicating that this is facing to the left. That means the spawn point will be facing this direction when the player spawns in. So now we have 2 spawns, and we need to add some flags. So select flag, click Make Entity, snap it to the center. We'll put this right in front of the spawn point here. We also need to add a team number. So that'll be team number 1. And we can duplicate it. Whoops, I didn't have that in the right window to duplicate. So hit escape to deselect everything, make sure I've got the correct thing selected with shift click. If I want to select anything in the 2D view, use shift click, because regular click is used for dragging and moving. And so this should be team number 2. Looks like I may have not set the correct team. Okay, not sure how that got unset, but anyway, we've got flags for team 1 and 2, and now we need capture points. So for capture points, we need to actually create a brush that defines an area of where you capture. So we'll create an area here, and I put the trigger texture on there so we know that this is a trigger as opposed to a normal brush in the world. So now we click base and click Make Entity, add a key pair, team number 1. Duplicate, team number 2. So now we should have a very simple CTF map. So let's save this. We'll call it my map. Now, Note that you should always use lowercase, because many of the servers run Linux, and Linux is case sensitive, and having upper and lower cases can cause all kinds of problems with map selections. So always use lowercase for your file names. Save that, and then we will export. So we have a very simple map. Now you'll notice the round actually started here because I have a debug command set up. So debug 1 is used for testing maps. If that's set to 0, then it acts like a normal map. If you set it to 1, it adds 1 player to each team. If you set it to 2, it adds 2 players to each team. These aren't real players, they're just phantom players, but if you notice down near the lower right area of the HUD, the team count indicators show that there's 3 people on my team and 2 people on the red team. So now we should be able to run over, grab the flag, and score it. So that should be enough to get you started making your very first map, and then we'll go into some more details on brush manipulation and texturing in later tutorials.